Hello and welcome back to my small net library. Today we have a special guest who just moved his face out of the video. But yeah, my dog wants to use the chair, so we're doing this on the floor just because it's a little bit simpler. But yeah, let's talk about all of the books I've read in September. I had a little bit of a slower month, also because I watched The Dog of Our Friends for the last week and there really wasn't much reading there. But yeah, I generally the month was a little bit slower and the book's a little bit bigger at the beginning, and then towards the end I just decided to read small books so that I read anything at all. So yeah, let's talk about what I've read and how I liked it. And I started the month with Ruth Randall, The Crocodile Bird. I absolutely did not remember that I owned this book, and so I went through my Goodreads at the beginning of September and looked for books that I wanted to read that were on my shelves for a really long time, and one of them was this one. And the premise sounds incredibly interesting. We have a mother who has some dark secrets, and so she keeps her daughter really, really isolated, and then one day the police come and the mother sends her daughter away, and the daughter flees and pretty much checks up with her boyfriend, which the mother would not have approved of, but the girlfriend secretly has. But the daughter secretly has. And so the book is pretty much a retelling from the daughter's point of view of what happened to the mother and what she did. But yeah, so yeah, the book was pretty bad, which I'm really sorry to say. The book makes the mother out to be this really, like, you get the feeling that the mother is supposed to be this monster, even though everything she does is just saving herself and her daughter. And the premise is also like, oh, is the daughter like the mother? No, she's not. She's just a really shattered child who escapes a kind of abusive relationship with her mother, because even though the mother tries to be nice to her, obviously she pretty much makes her just live in this little it's a gatehouse where they live, and she just has the room and the house, and she isn't really allowed to go anywhere and stuff like that. So it's kind of an abusive relationship. And the daughter is just a really nice girl who tries to live out in the world. So there's no mystery really. There isn't a monster anywhere. It's just, you know, a woman who does what she thinks she has to do. And her daughter who retells all of it to her bad boyfriend. So yeah, 2 stars. Really nothing special, really not that interesting, and actually really disappointing if you read the blurb, because the book just doesn't live up to the blurb. After that, I listened to the first audiobook, or the first book of the Murderbot series, All Systems Red by Martha Wells. Love that book. I gave it 4 stars. I think it's a really nice series. And yeah, I really enjoy reading them. I started rereading them, currently listening to the second part, so yeah. It's a sci-fi series where you have murder bots. They're not really murder bots, but they're security bots who go with human scientists onto missions to keep themselves safe, and because our main bot had like an accident because of a faulty module, he actually murdered a lot of people, and now he feels really awkward and bad, and he kind of just wants to live his life watching TV, and that's the story about him. So yeah, love that series. It's great. I think I've read the first 2 or 3 so far, and now I'm doing a reread to kind of like slowly go through all of them. Then the next one was kind of a disappointment, but also kind of a little bit of an adventure. This is The Passage by Justin Cronin. I bought this book close to the time when it came out, and I was 15 or 16 at the time. So I have this in my collection for quite some time, and at the beginning I was really adamant that I finished this book and that I read it, but I couldn't remember much of it. Only that I kind of liked it. And it is about well, a kind of vampire outbreak. It's a military experiment, and everything goes wrong from there. And so it's like post-apocalyptic, and yeah. So I read this book, the first 300 pages, absolutely love those. And then it really takes a nosedive, and it gets really bad for another 300 pages. Like the middle part of the book is really, really bad. It's kind of like a time lapse of 90 years. You don't form any connections with the characters, you don't really care for them, and so a lot of the death in the books really doesn't mean it and don't mean anything to you. And then the last 300 pages were really interesting again. Funny thing was, after reading the first 300 pages and beginning the second part, I was convinced I only ever read the first 300 pages, but once I came to the last 300 pages, I remembered those as well. So my brain just misremembered and just forgot the 300 middle pages that were really bad. Because of those middle pages, I can only give this book 3 stars. I really love the beginning, I like the ending, but the middle part is just really, really bad. It's not enjoyable, you want to skip it, trust me, but I love the beginning so much, and in the end I think there aren't any more time lapses to expect, so yeah. I do plan on continuing with the series now. I never continued back then. But yeah, there are 2 more books as far as I know. The next one is the 12th. On the 12th, I think. So yeah, it's an interesting series. I just think it's like, I don't know how that happened, that the first part is so good and then it turned so bad. But it sadly happened. So yeah, but if you're interested in it, it's also about a special little girl, and I don't know, I really like the beginning. I like the concept of the story. Kind of like how dumb the military is in its experiments because they feel better than everyone else. It's a whole story, you know, but yeah, I enjoy the principle of the book, but not the middle of it. So yeah, 3 stars. After that, I thought, you know, I need a little bit of a palate cleanser, and I wanted to read the next detective thriller that I have, and I was promptly disappointed with, which seems to be a theme with the detective thrillers that I own and haven't read yet, which is really, really sad. But yeah, I read Along Came a Spider, which is the first book in the Alex Cross series by James Patterson. And I kind of really liked the thought that our main character, he is a black cop who comes from the poorer areas of, what is it, DC, I think? Like, you know, one American city. And yeah, so he obviously has a lot of different experiences than other cops, and he kind of stands out, and we begin with the murder of a family, and then 2 small children get abducted from this really privileged white people's school, where like really it's a private school, and you know the kids have like their own security details and stuff like that. So it's not like for the average child, you know, it's for really rich parents who are afraid that there could happen something to their kids, and 2 of the kids get kidnapped. And he is just so angry about getting pulled from the murder case to look into the kidnapping case, even though the kidnapping victims are assumed alive and his victims are already dead. I found that, you know, there's the aspect that you can understand that he thinks it's dumb that he gets pulled away. But then again, I think like obviously living victims have like a little bit of a higher priority because you have the hope that you can get them back living. So yeah, I found that to be really, really weird, and it doesn't get better from there. The main detective, our main guy, and his kind of nemesis in the book are portrayed as they're like this really genius persons, and our main detective has studied psychology, so he isn't just a detective if you look at it that way, but they are so dumb and they fall for the dumbest things, and it's just really, really not making sense. Like really, where you read the sentences are like, why would he do that? There is no hint that he would do it that way. He knows better, he knows his stuff, there's no reason. For example, the bad guy tries to get away with multiple personality disorder, which I hate as a trope because I think it's often portrayed really, really wrongly. But that isn't the problem in this book. The problem is that they obviously have really obvious, what's the word? But they have obvious clues that he lives 2 parallel lives pretty much, and they know that, and they can show that to the jury, and still there are people thinking that he has multiple personalities, and that is the problem. Not that the guy had 2 completely different lives that he lived parallel. So yeah, even our detective thinks that sometimes in the book, which really doesn't make any sense if he's a psychologist, you know. So yeah, 2 stars it was kind of a disappointment. Though I did read in the Goodreads reviews that the series is supposed to get better, so I have hopes that maybe the series will get better, because I do own the other books, but quite a few of the books in the series, so hopefully it will get better. But yeah, this was kind of a disappointment for the first book in the series, if I'm honest. Especially since I liked the layout of the story, it's just that the characters act really, really dumb. After that, I needed something different, and so I decided to listen to a book about conspiracy theories that is called Off the Edge. Flat Earthers, conspiracy, culture, and why people will believe everything. And yeah, the main focus of the book is on flat Earth, but the author kind of explains just what comes with believing in conspiracy theories and what that makes of the people and what happens to their surroundings and to the people in their lives and stuff like that. Really, really interesting. Would recommend. I gave it 4 stars, and it's by Kelly Whale. And I think she's actually a journalist, and her primary focus of journalism is conspiracy theories. So she has a lot of experience in the field, and a lot of conspiracy theories talk to her just because she covers those topics, and yeah, it's really, really interesting. And she also was in contact with one, I don't know if there are multiple, but I know that there's one who built like a rocket and died because he didn't take the right parachute with him and the rocket failed. So she knew that person, and he's a part of the book, and it's a really sad story. Actually, most conspiracy theory stories are actually really sad because the people really ruin their lives with those beliefs. But yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think it's a topic you kind of should keep up on, just so, you know, we all don't slide into those beliefs, because there's easy indoctrination on the internet for those, and yeah, you really have to be careful that you know, don't believe something is utterly ridiculous. He's so cute. Then, I wanted some more sci-fi. It was bad again. I read The Mutant Corpse, The Mutant Corpse, I think would be the English translation. And yeah, this is a German collection of novels with the main character Perry Roden. They are written by different people, but they at some point went back and collected all of the serials and put them into collections, and I own the first, I think, 8 of those. There are so many. The series started in the 60s, and I think they are still publishing new ones. I really liked the first one. It was really interesting. It was like a basic sci-fi story of people realizing they're aliens and going into the moon. And this one is like supposed to, you know the next ones, but it's really, really boring. It's kind of because they were like really short stories at the beginning who were published like with a time difference from one another. They really don't read nicely together like that. So yeah, I didn't enjoy it that much because there was a lot of repetition. We get... Thank you. I think he doesn't want to hear me talk anymore. Well, it is. Okay. Yep. So because they were intended as like these short serials, we have aliens in here, for example. They get described again and again and again, even though we already know how they look and how they act, and it just gets really boring, and that makes the whole book feel a little bit as like a filler book, even though it technically isn't, because the series is so long. Can you really have like filler episodes in that? But yeah, that made the book really boring. They end up on Venus, which is a jungle planet in this version of science fiction, which is kind of cool, the idea, but yeah, overall it felt really boring, and yeah, I didn't really enjoy it that much, if I'm honest. And another thing is, because they are so old, they feel really stilted in how the people are talking. Everything feels so polite in this book, which obviously isn't how real life works. But somehow Germans in the 60s seem to write really, really polite, which, I don't know, it reads funny, if I'm honest. But yeah, so not the most interesting book. I gave it 2 stars. I will continue with the series, probably like, you know, every 6 months or so I read one of these, and at some point I will make progress. I probably will never read all of them. I'm just not that much into the series. But I like to own them because they are obviously really old at the time. My copies are from the 70s, so they are 50 years old already. And I do like to own them because I think it's a really, really big part of German sci-fi history. These were very, very well known and really, really loved. And so yeah, I think it's great to own the copies, even though if I don't enjoy all of them. And then we are already coming to the last few books. We have 2 that I will do together. These are 2 Conan books. I already read 2 Conan books in English, and then I do own these 2 which are in German, but we have one that is called Conan the Buccaneer, and then we have Conan from the Isles, and both of these are canonically after Atlantis sank, and he goes and searches for Atlantis and finds some people there. They are really, really similar. They are adventure novels. I don't think there's much to say about them. You know, it's Conan going out, fighting people, saving people, and going back home again. So yeah, I enjoy them. I gave both of them 3 stars. I don't think these are anything, you know, to scream about how good they are. I don't think they are particularly good, but they are really, really entertaining. Obviously they're old, you get that, you know, but I love the covers, for one. I think those are incredible covers. You just live for this cover art. Yeah, other than that, we have one that plays out more on the sea and with like sea monsters and stuff, and the other ones it's more in like a jungle temple setting, and yeah. In both, obviously, he comes out at the end. I think in one he's a lot older than in the other. But yeah, they're entertaining. I don't know what else to say about them. I don't think the story matters much, in my opinion. It's just entertaining sword fighting, sea fights with the boats. Magic is in here as well. Skeletons, magical powers, killing people, all of that stuff. So yeah, entertaining. I will definitely look for more Conan stuff. I love the entertainment factor of those, and I don't mind that they're really outdated, and you know, the women are there to be pretty and to be saved, and yeah, it's silly, but to be honest, it still makes entertaining novels, so I don't really care about that. And then we have the last book for September, and that is Alice in Wonderland, because well, I read these 2 while I was dog sitting, and it was a really, really, really hard time dog sitting because the dog doesn't have the best training, and you had to keep an eye on it always because it would just get up to chaos if you didn't keep an eye on it. So I really didn't have a lot of like mental power left to read, and so I decided to do kind of reread of Alice in Wonderland. I never read this edition, I only ever read my other editions, so I thought, why not? This is the Penguin Crossbound edition. There's a lot of extra information in here that I didn't read because, if I'm honest, I don't really care that much for the extra information. I will read, you know, a chapter here, a chapter there if I find something really interesting, but I'm not one to read the extra information from front to finish whilst reading the novels, you know. But yeah, for me, the Alice novels, they are always 5 stars. I feel like I can understand if you don't like them. They don't really have that much of a story, you know, but I just love the utter chaos that is the Alice novels, and just that nothing makes sense, and that in itself makes sense. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I forgot a lot about Through the Looking Glass, so it was nice to get a reminder of that. And I personally really love that the films and the novel are so different, because I, for one, love the films. But yeah, obviously they are not really that comparable to the novels, because in here, in the first one, in Alice is 6, and in Through the Looking Glass, she's 7.5. Obviously, in the movies, she's an adult then, but in here, she's still a child, and so it's obviously really childlike. But yeah, I love a lot of the songs in here, the poetry. It's a lot of fun, you know, and also this version has the original illustrations that came with the novels, and I really love the art style. I'm a sucker for illustrations like this, so yeah, it's just a really pretty edition all around, and it was a lot of fun to read it. It was a quick read because Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass are only like 110 pages. So yeah, it's a quick, fun read. If you really don't want to read anything you have to think about. So yeah, that is the short month of September. 9 books, I'm fine with that. And yeah, I had a lot of like sadly bad books where I thought I would really enjoy them. So that was kind of a disappointment. But I ended on a great book, so that is all that counts, to be honest. And yeah, I'm really happy with what I've read. I made a little bit of a dent in my TBR, which I'm really happy about, and yeah. Hopefully October will be a little bit better. Probably not, but you can hope, right? So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe leave a like, subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Bye bye!